How's it going, everybody? This is Always back with another video on the channel. In this video, I'm going to talk about PrimeNg, which is a component library for Angular. This video is going to be about generating your own custom theme. A lot of times when I've seen people using PrimeNg, they've used it in a wrong way. When I say wrong way, I don't mean that they use the PrimeNg itself in the wrong way. What they do is they try to do the work for overriding components when they start implementing their own theme by extending the CSS classes in the component itself. For example, if I click on getting started, that takes me to the documentation. Here you go to the theming section, click on overview, and all the way down, they talk about a custom theme. And I haven't really come across any developer that actually talk about how to generate a custom theme. PrimeNg comes with a built-in themes. So if I click on the built-in section, you'll see PrimeNg comes with a lot of themes out of the box. And what people try to do, use one of the theme, and then they will use the component's Sass file to override the properties and style API available for that particular component. So to demonstrate how you can generate your own custom theme, I'd like you to click on this custom theme section. Here you'll see they talk about there is a PrimeNg Sass theme project available at GitHub. So if you go to the Prime Faces GitHub, go to the Prime Faces, and you will see there is Prime React Sass theme, and there is Prime View Sass theme, and I want to try finding PrimeNg Sass theme. So if you click on View All Repositories, here we will surely find PrimeNg Sass theme. So if I click here, and you'll see lots of themes that PrimeNg comes with, their source code is actually provided here. So the way they basically override the component, so let's say if I go to the Nova theme, you'll see here there's a variable.sass file, and this file contains pretty much all the variables that the base theme uses. So instead of actually overriding lots of properties from the base theme, for example, if we go to theme base folder and go to components and go to button and then click on button partial, you see here is the file that contains all the styling for all the buttons available in PrimeNg. It's even including all the styling for different events like focus event, a button label, or even other buttons like primary, secondary, and warning button. So this is pretty lengthy. So what developers basically do, they will start looking at what classes they can override in the components as file, which takes a lot of time, and you're not going to basically cover all the scenario. So recently when I started using PrimeNg in the recent project, what I did, I basically just cloned the repository and I chose one base theme. For example, one of the theme we were using is Noah. I actually downloaded this and I went into one of the variable file and I started overriding the properties. For example, the global properties here. Let's just say you want to apply the radius throughout the system for pretty much everything. So if you look at this global variable called border radius, which is set to 3 pixels, if you change that and then generate your own theme, that border radius will basically be applied everywhere. To demonstrate what's happening here, we need to clone this repository and create a new Angular project and install PrimeNg. Let's create a new Angular project and clone this repository. I'll be using WebStorm for this because it allows to create a new project very easily. So I can use the new project and then basically create a project. I'll just select a folder where I'll just use the create for the trial projects, click on open, and I'll just use this Angular Prime theme. And I'll just create a project. Now, Angular recently released a new version, which was version 17. And at the version 17, the project is created as a standalone project. So while this is created, and I'm going to actually clone the repo as well. So in open repo, we'll just go back to the Chrome and I will grab the URL and I'll just paste that here. Now I'd like to create temp directory for this. Click on done and it's just gonna clone and open that repository for me. Now at this stage, I have this package.json. Basically, it doesn't have any script, so I'll show you how you can generate your own theme. First, let's go back to your Angular project, and we need to go back to PrimeNg and then see how we can install PrimeNg. So I'll just duplicate this tab, getting started guide, installation, and all you need is npm install PrimeNg. Once the packages are installed using npm, I usually like to use pnpm because that saves a lot of time when installing packages. So we'll go into terminal, but before we can install this, we need to just wait for this to finish. Okay, so that's all the components are installed, and then we're gonna go terminal, and I'll just use this npm install PrimeNg. And in the guide, you'll see they ask us to go to angular.json file and then just use these two, depending on the theme that you want to use. For example, in this demo, they use this Laura theme and then the PrimeNg min.sys file. Or you can basically go ahead and then just import your CSS files directly into Sass file. That's another possibility as well. Now let's go back here. PrimeNg has been installed, so we go into app, assets. Actually, that's a style file, so I can just import those here. Once I import those, I'll be able to go to app component. I'm actually going to delete everything, and then here we'll just use this p button, and I'll just say PrimeNg button. Also like to stop the power saving mode in WebStorm so I could get the IntelliSense. Now, if I just start running this application, so the command would be npm start. Now the problem is the app component's got some problem because we haven't really imported Angular entity, which is this PrimeNg module. So if I look at the component, it's going to import this button module. Once done, then I should be able to see the localhost 4200 working. So we'll go to localhost 4200 and you'll see the PrimeNg button is visible. Let me just bring up the IDE and the browser side by side. Now, what people usually do, they will just go into their component Sass file where they're using the PrimeNg component. They'll just basically go and say p button, and I'll just use the color to be, well, let's say this one, and I'll save it. At this stage, it's not, getting affected because of the encapsulation. So if I go in here, and then I'll just use this encapsulation, I'll just set to view encapsulation to none. Save. And now you see the color of that button is being applied. So if I go and change the background color to something like black, you'll see the component, taking all the styling. Now the problem is if you want to override the styling for this button or any component in PrimeNg, you'll have to actually go into every component file where you use the PrimeNg and override their properties, which is really, really bad. And, PrimeNg comes with the themes. For example, here, if we go to PrimeNg, go to resources, resources, and then go to themes, and then here all the themes and the CSS file. Currently, if we use the style.sys file, we're actually using this Lara light blue theme. And if you look at Lara light blue theme, this is the CSS file and then the fonts that really we're using right now. But the problem is I don't want to actually override the, every component separately. What I would like to do is just create my own theme, which is gonna save me lots and lots of time. So instead of using the theme from here, I could just use my own theme and overwrite the variables and values right in there instead of just rewriting everything. So let's go into app.css file. And if you look at here, I would like to use this border radius, and we can just say 9 pixel. Actually, we need to use like 24 pixel. And you see the button is now have a border radius. But this is again the problem. What I like to do is instead of just creating my button component directly into other component, I would like to create a library of my components which are going to be reusable, and I could reuse them in anywhere in my application. And you can actually do that, but the problem is the theming and then all the CSS, it's going to take a lot of time. So let's take a look at how we can generate our own theme and then just use that. I'll go to this repository, PrimeNg Sass theme, and here you'll see we're going to be overriding lots of variables from the base theme. But PrimeNg basically actually started providing recently this my theme and then tailwind theme, which are like really unstyled theme. But to demonstrate this, I would like to actually go ahead and then use this Nova theme. So if you look at the Nova theme, they got some variants like Nova theme, Nova accent, ALT, view, and then here's the variable files. So I'll just use this normal Nova theme. And in here, if you look at theme.sass file, what it's doing is it's actually importing the variable file, fonts file, and then the base components, and then the rendering section and extensions. So if I try to run this file or compile this file, it is actually going to generate a theme for me. So let's go ahead and then go to PrimeNg documentation. And here they give you a command to compile Sass manually. So I'll just use this. Okay. And I would like to pass in the path. So first of all, let's go in here. Let me open this in the new terminal. How do I open that in the terminal? Well, I can just use the shortcut key here. If you look at the PWD, I'm at that place. So what I'll do is paste that command. And here we got themes, my theme, theme.css file. But I would like to basically just use the theme.sass file. And this is going to be the part where it's going to generate the theme. So for that, I'll go in here and I would like to just paste the theme right here. So I'll just do copy path reference and I'll just copy the absolute path. And then in here, I'll just paste that. And then I think if I look at this, yes. So we'll just use this theme.css file. I'll just press enter. And at this stage, if I look at here and refresh, actually, there was actually a problem with the command. I actually by accident removed the T, enter. And now you see the compiled CSS has been copied to this part where here you go. Okay. So at this stage, I would like to just remove the P button and I'll go to style file and I would like to just import PrimeNg theme that we just generated. And we go into assets slash theme.css file. And I don't really need this Laura theme, but I'll just use that. Let's comment out for now. And then we need to just bring our theme up. Now we need to restart the server. Now it is actually using our theme that we generated from that source code. So I'll go in here, let's say this one. Now you see that the PrimeNg is using our theme. Let's take a look at the application. So here you got the PrimeNg button. Let's just say the application is actually running. We'll go to this repository and we use the Nova theme. And within the Nova theme, I will go into variable. And here you see that this has some variables, for example, the primary color, and also it is importing the variables from the outside. For example, this is the main variable files. Now, let's just say we go back to our code and I go to app component and I will just like to add a p card and an input field. Now, if you look at, we have this card, we got PrimeNg button, and we got this input field. Okay, so let's try updating the radius for pretty much all of these components. So if I go into other repository and then here find this border radius for this global variable, I'll make that as a 24 and I save it, and I would just run the same command, which is basically it's going to Sass update theme, and then it will just generate the new theme and paste it here. Let's press enter and you'll see that application actually got updated because our theme file within our application, which is this file, this actually got updated with the radius. And now you see that basically all the component, not just one, got all the radius instead of like, you go to each component, make a reusable component first, and then just update their radius. For example, if you want to update the the primary color. So if I go to this repository and primary colors are being overridden here, so I'll just go ahead and change this to, let's say, pink color. I'll save, and then in here, I will just run the same command, enter, and the themes get generated, and you'll see that the primary color is now changed for our Angular application. Let me quickly walk you through where you need to update the variables to generate your theme. So the structure is usually very, very simple. Let's say you choose Nova or any other theme. First of all, Nova will have some variants, like in this case, we got Nova, Nova Accent, Alt View. They basically have similar files like extension, fonts, variables. Fonts will contain all the fonts, variables, basically what are the variables you want to override from the global variable files, which in this case is this one. So if I just double click variables, here's all the variables available, which are basically being used in our components. So if you look at now all same file, extension, font, variables, and theme, you got Nova Alt and Nova Accent, right? So we choose Nova, and then we just starting overriding the variables from the variable, which is like the base. Now, where are the base components, like all the components? So these are the themes here, these ones. And then you go into base themes. Here we got all the components. So if we look at components, go to button and I go to button. So here we got all the buttons related styling here. So if I, let's say I want to create a button with something different border radius. So here's a border radius, and you see the variable is used is border radius. So I press command and I click on that. That actually takes me to all of these themes, but also it's going to take me to Nova and variables. So it's actually reading the variable from here. Now let's just say if I go back to that file and I'll just delete this here. This is just for a button component directly here, and then we generate the Sass theme. Now at this stage, you'll see the other components are using that variable like this input field, and it's got the radius happening here, but the button components no longer takes the radius because that property has been removed from the actual button Sass file. Let's just bring it back, and instead of this, we'll just use something like, let's just say 8 pixel. We'll just generate a new theme. And in this case, you will see that the button actually has a different radius than the input field and then the card. Because if you want to override the styling for a specific component, you'll find them in the component folder like here. And you go into pretty much all of these files. Let's say if you want to override styling for carousels, just double click on the carousel file and file all the properties that the PrimeNg gives you. This way you can actually override things with variables or actually add or remove styling to actual themes. And then you just generate your theme. This way you don't have to write all of this. You don't have to think about what classes you need to override for all of these components because the work is actually done for you already. You just need to get this repository and then update wherever you want to update, and then just generate a theme. And instead of using the default themes that comes with the PrimeNg, just use this theme like we're doing here, where I have install.sass file, and then here I'm just using my theme here. I hope that video helped, and then make sure you generate your own theme. Even though you're using a Nova or whatever the theme, try to just clone that repository and override the values there, instead of just going into each component Sass file and then just try writing all that over again, because that work is, already done for us. So, all right, thank you so much for watching, and I'll speak to you guys in the next video. Cheers.